Well, good evening, everyone. Appreciate you attending my seminar about what to look for when you're going to build a home on your own lot. And I do this seminar now a few times a month. Used to do it once a month in Houston and once a month in San Antonio, but now I do it a few times a month. So some ways it's gotten easier, and some ways a little bit more difficult. Is the fact that I'm talking to a computer screen, but I appreciate you joining me and spending your evening to learn a little bit about custom home building. The first part of what I'm going to go over is what to look for when you're purchasing a lot. That's a very short part of this presentation. And the next part I go is what to really look for when you're building and looking for a custom home builder. I always would say I'm pretty good on my feet. I guess I'm pretty good in my seat. And Brian Bromberg is one of my panelists, and he's our assistant sales manager. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type those questions in, and he'll be answering them while I'm talking. The other thing is, I like to answer questions as well during the seminar. And if you have any questions, Brian can also reach out to me and say, hey, Mike, this is a really great question everybody might want to get an answer to. So try to make this as interactive as you'd like. I'm not the greatest at doing this yet. I've done probably 15 or 20 webinars, but I'm still not that slick on it as standing up. I used to do a radio show called The Better Home Show, and that was broadcasted in Houston and in San Antonio, and that was a live Saturday morning radio show every Saturday morning from 9 to 11, and it was on 700 KCV in Houston and 550 KTSA in San Antonio, and people would call in and ask questions, and we would answer them. So again, pretty good at answering questions just on a call-in basis. I'm going to be launching a little poll in just a second here, and if you wouldn't mind answering that, it'll help me as we go along. Make sure I answer some of the questions because I'll know where you're going to be building and what your responses are to make sure that I'm speaking if you're building in San Antonio or Houston, kind of time frames, and I'll make sure I can answer some of the questions based on the poll I launched. So I did launch that poll, and if you just answer those, it'd be great. And I'll be able to respond back with it. So again, appreciate the, make sure you can see it. I think it goes over here now. Maybe I launched it on a different screen. That must have been it. So again, just learning how to do that. So I'm going to get going here, and we'll start the seminar. So I'm going to stop my video so I can look at the screen and not distract you as I'm looking at different things. So let me get this rolling here. So first part I want to talk about is everything, all these things you see on your screen is, what do all these mean? Why are they important to you? So deed restrictions, why are they important? Well, they're there to exist and to protect you and your investment. But some people don't like deed restrictions. Some people don't like to live in a deed restricted community. And I live in the Woodlands, Texas. It's highly restricted, and I remember I got a trampoline once, and I put it in my backyard, and all of a sudden I got this note that says, you have an illegal trampoline. And I'm like, what's illegal about it? They didn't like the color of the netting. Well, I didn't like that very much, and I guess there was trampoline police. I got like almost an acre, and somehow they looked over the hedges and saw my trampoline. So if you don't like that sort of thing, probably not a good idea to buy in a deed restricted neighborhood. So those are, as you're looking at property, one of the first things we're going to ask is, are you in a restricted neighborhood? Because that's going to talk about what size home you can build, because you might be wanting to downsize. You might say, hey, I want to live in a home that's 2,000 feet. I live in a 3,000 square foot house. Well, if you buy in a neighborhood that says the minimum square footage is 2,400 square feet, that's what you're going to be building. So you want to be really careful as you go out and look for property, that you buy property that fits the needs of what you want to do now, but maybe in what you think you might want to do in the future, meaning you might change your mind. We have a lot of people that own property, and when they go to build on it, they find that the property they've owned for several years doesn't fit their new needs, and those new needs are maybe a smaller square footage or a different building style. Building style could be, I want a farmhouse look. That's kind of popular now. Well, they may not allow a farmhouse look. And so that's something to be thinking about. You may want a house that has a metal roof, and maybe in that neighborhood they don't allow metal roofs. Or it may cause you to have to put a metal roof on, or a more expensive tile roof or metal roof. And those are um, things you don't want to spend dollars on. That's not something that you're wanting to invest in. And so, whoops, make that a little bit smaller here, leave it up for a little while. But that's not something that you want to invest in. So you definitely, again, review those deed restrictions before you purchase the home site. First question we're going to ask is, do you have deed restrictions? And you may say no. We're going to check it out. We're going to go online and look. And then if you're not sure, you can pull title on the property, and the title will show us if there's in a restricted community. And a lot of people go, well, I don't care what the restrictions say. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And I always say, well, that's nice, but we're not going to be the one that builds your home, because we don't want to be in a lawsuit with you when that happens. So anyway, those are things around restrictions, deed restrictions. Just make sure you understand them. If you're about to go out and shop different builders, or you're going to an architect or designer and you do have restrictions, I'd urge you to read them, because again, we're going to read those to make sure that we comply to those, and your architect or designer needs those to make sure that they're not designing a home that can't fit your needs. And so you want to make sure that when they're designing something, that it is something that will fit the needs and the needs of the community. A properly developed subdivision has a plan. So in the state of Texas, anybody can wake up and go, I'm a developer, and they can start developing property. And that doesn't mean they know what they're doing. That just means that they have the means to be able to get some money and go cut a street in and start selling off the property. I always use Texas Grand Ranch in the Houston area, because a lot of people know what that is. It's advertised a lot. And then I always use Mystic Shores in San Antonio, because it's such a big area and a lot of people know that one. Those two are developed by really good developers that did a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about. If you're not buying in one of those larger communities, then you definitely want to, do these things, meaning at least ask about them. They may not have done them, but at least if it's a smaller developer, that, hey, they've done these things correctly. So one of them is a geotechnical study. They're going to make sure that the lots, one that they're going to go represent to you, that most likely, obviously, every house, we're going to talk about foundations a little while, and geotechnical studies for each house. That's something that's going to take place on each home site, but they're going to do an overall geotechnical study to make sure that what they're representing is, to the best of their knowledge, buildable on. Also, they need to make sure that when they are going to build the streets and the roads, that they're building them properly. I've seen many developers develop property and put in the streets, and the streets literally fall apart over time. One, either they didn't use a good contractor, or they were trying to do it inexpensively. And the person who's left holding the bag is the property owners who bought it. Well, they go, we can go sue the guy. Well, he may have had a little company, and you go sue him and there's nothing there, but you own this beautiful home on a street that you can't even drive down. So you definitely want to make sure that they're doing a geotechnical study. You can ask, if it's a larger development like Texas Grand Ranch, you could say, I want to see all your documents that you're going to turn this over to the county, and the county's accepted your roads. They would show those to you, and you could see that now you're not going to be responsible for those roads or streets. So those are things to think about when you're looking at property. Drainage and sewer, making sure that the property's going to drain. They're going to go look at that. If you're buying less than an acre, it's where you see the sewer and septics are laid out ahead of time. If it's less than an acre and you need to put a sewer and a septic in, a septic and a water well in that particular case, you need to make sure that they've laid them all out ahead of time. I've seen people own property, and there was a person on the left and a person on the right, and they were there before our buyer. And that person on the left had put their septic on the right-hand side of their home, and the person on the right had put their septic on the left side of the home. And then when they needed to put a water well in, you were unable to do that. You couldn't get a permit to do that because the water well was going to be too close to their septics. And well, they had a little bit bigger property. And so a lot of people go, what do you do when that happens? In that particular case, our buyer had to move their septic system because the other person had more property. So understanding kind of the lay of the land is something you at least want to ask or think about these questions. Is a water supply public? A lot of times when you're looking at property, they think they've gotten a better deal because, hey, the property was less money than the one down the street, but now you got to put in a water well. Well, that water well in, let's say, the San Antonio area could be $18,000. In Houston, it could be $5,000 or $6,000. Same thing with the septic. Maybe it has sewer, and all of a sudden that lot is 20,000 more than the house down the street where you need to put in a septic. Well, it might be more value to have a sewer and public water. But those are all things to think about when you're looking at the property, because it's not just the cost of the lot. I'm going to talk a lot about that today. It's the cost of developing the lot to get all the stuff that you want. So is everyone done doing the polling? I launched that poll earlier. If anybody logged on later wants to do the poll, they can right now. Otherwise, I'm going to pull it off and get it out of the way. Appreciate it. Thank you all so much for participating in that. So, is propane available? A lot of times people come to us and they start talking about their gas and their water and all the stuff they think's at their site, and we're like, we've built out there before. There is no propane, there is no gas, and they're shocked. And propane's generally you can buy a tank that either gets put in above ground, but a lot of people don't realize you can bury propane tanks. So, I really like gas. It's the most efficient way to heat your home. I like it for heating water, and I love it for cooking because I'm a big cook. But if you're going to go and you care about energy efficiency, the most energy efficient home is a home that's run on gas and propane. I can tell you that electric has come a long way. It's coming farther and farther, but gas or propane is still the most efficient, and obviously today, very, very affordable. Determine that property is not a federally designated floodplain or floodway. You can do that by pulling a floodplain certificate. That is about $14 deal to figure that out. A lot of people might tell you it's not in a floodplain. I always say when you're buying property is think like you're a bank. Okay, a bank doesn't pay cash for anything without checking everything out. And most of the time I see people with problems is they paid cash for the property. That doesn't mean don't pay cash. I'm just telling you, you need to think like a bank when you are paying cash. And the reason I say that is they don't do these checks like, is it in a floodplain? They go, no, it's not in a floodplain. They believe them. Pull a floodplain certificate. Again, it's $14. Maybe they go, hey, we can save money. You don't need to do a survey. I do a survey. You'll find out sometimes that that property may or may not have the right easements, or there could be a pipeline running right under where the house goes, and you don't know that until you live in the home. These are all things, or not live in the home, when you're about to build the home. These are all things we've had happen to customers over our 23 years in business. We'll go out, start doing a survey, and find out that there's a problem on their lot, and they own that property, and they go, oh my gosh, I bought this 5 years ago. Well, they didn't get title insurance, nothing was checked out, and they get to own the property. That's what that means. So definitely act like a bank when you're buying property, whether it's cash or if you're getting a loan, the bank's going to make sure that it's okay. Look for positive drainage. Drainage is a big deal, whether it's in San Antonio or Houston. You want to make sure that the property drains, and make sure that where you think you're going to place your home, that water will run away from it. That doesn't mean we can't fix it. That just means that it's going to cost you money if we have to build up the lot or create positive drainage. Lots with insufficient drainage, that can add some additional cost to the building of your home. So, I was talking about, I'm about to talk about utilities, but we're talking about a lot. So you buy the lot, let's just keep it all simple, for $50,000. That's really not the cost of the lot. You now need to put a septic or water well in, possibly, but let's just say you need a septic. And if you don't need that, you're building in the city, you have to hook up to city utilities. So you're looking anywhere between $7,000 to $20,000, depending on what you're putting in after you buy your property. Okay, because your septic system is going to be about $12,000 in San Antonio and about $9,000 to $10,000 in Houston. And if you're putting in a well, it's more expensive in San Antonio because they're farther away from the water table. So all those things add dollars, and you have to clear your property, which could be, depending on how much you need to clear, two or three or four or five or six or $7,000. You might have to build a building pad in Houston, more likely than in San Antonio, but sometimes it happens in San Antonio as well. You have to do a building pad to build the house up on. So I always use, to give you an example of what a building pad is, that's the, if you ever got driven around Beltway 8 or some of the commercial sites around San Antonio on 1604, and you look out, you kind of see they're building it up, and then they do those tilt wall construction on top. Those are engineered pads. They're engineering the dirt so they can put a building on top of it. And when they do that, they're adding dirt to get it level and compacted and have it be the right kind of dirt to build on. So doing an engineered pad can cost money. Sometimes we have to raise the house up to get it out of a floodplain. So there's lots of different reasons to have to build a pad, and those can add to the cost of your home. So, driveways, those can be short or can be very long. Most of them, if you're building on acreage, are at least 75 feet long. If you're building in the city, that's a lesser expense. It could be only 50 feet long or 25 feet long. But those are all additional costs that are on top of buying the lot. So when people come in and they start talking about, I want to spend $350,000 for a home, one of the first questions we ask, is that just the house, or is that the entire project, along with the the development of the property? And they might go, well, that's the development of the property. Well, then we need to start looking at a home that might be $275,000. It's a different home. So I always talk about this a lot, because as you go out and ask people for, I want to look at a home like this, you got to think about what the cost is to build on that lot. And when you're purchasing the lot, a lot of times people don't realize there's these other costs. The guy selling the lot ain't going to tell you everything because he's wanting to sell you the lot. The builder is going to tell you what it really costs, because that's what it really costs to build on there. Driveways, again, the longer the driveway, the more money it can cost. In concrete, generally, now it's pretty much in both cities with what's going on with asphalt, but concrete's generally less money than asphalt. In San Antonio, really long driveways, sometimes asphalt can come in to be a little bit less money, but it is a maintenance item, and it is something that's not as permanent as the concrete. So those are all things to, again, as you're looking at property, thinking about before you move on. I told you that part would be really fast. That was what to look for in a lot. I just want you to think about that, because a lot of that's the cost associated when you purchase the lot. There's other costs other than just buying that lot. If you're building, and you always use a production builder like Lennar Homes, well, those lots are set up. They're very small. Their driveways are really short. They have water and sewer. They're all there. So when they get that lot delivered, they're doing lots and lots of lots in a small area, and they don't, their cost in that particular kind of home isn't the same as a home that's on acreage. It's not the same as building a one-off home in the city, because they have mass, when they're putting all those together and the developer is doing them all at the same time, they're connecting all that pipe work and everything up at the same time. So let's say septic system is 11,000 on a production home. To put in a sewer, a sewer tap, I'm going to call it, it could be 3,000 or 4,000 a lot, because they're close together and they're doing so many. So you get, a lot of people go, why is a production home on those smaller lots, why does it cost less? Well, their lot costs are less because of their infrastructure, because it was done in mass, costs less. So just things to think about. So what to look for in a builder, I'm going to cover what these are. And again, if you have any questions, we do have Brian Bromberg on our line, and he is questioning and answering. So if you have any questions, please ask him the questions, and he will be happy to answer them during this. And again, I'll be reading them some. If I see some pop up that I think applies to everybody, it'd be great. We can do that as well. So what to look for in a builder, I'm going to cover each of these and what they mean. So first of all, um, you know, when I started Design Tech Homes 23 years ago, and by the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Mike Feigen. I'm the owner of Design Tech Homes, and my wife Barbara owns the company with me. And we um, started it to help people get a custom home in an efficient manner. And so I worked for a large national home builder, and that large national home builder did some little bit of custom work, and then they did mostly production homes. But there were some good things that production does, and there's some good things obviously that custom does, but I wanted to marry the two to get the best of both worlds. And so some of that was, in the old days, they used to say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if you went to a custom builder, he'd say, go find an architect, go find a designer. And they would have to go find one, and then they'd come back and say, okay, now you go clear the lot. Now you go figure out where your septic is. You go get the permits. So part of what we do, when you hear me say full service one-stop shopping, and it makes it more efficient and easier for the buyer. When you're looking for a builder, I would definitely look for someone who does a full service approach, and the fact that you'll typically end up where the house costs less money because it's all coordinated and they're thinking through everything. So lot side evaluation, I mean, the first thing we got to do is go out to the lot and make sure that where we're going to place this home is the best possible place. We go out a lot of times with buyers and they go, I want my house over here and here's what I want. And we go out with our area manager, and that's a full-time job, is the lot side evaluation at Design Tech Homes. And they go meet out there, and the person's talking about where they want everything. And we're like, hey, if we can move this house 6 feet forward and save you $30,000, would that work? And they're like, we don't like the house back there anymore. It looks much better over here. They might love a tree, and they're trying to save a tree, and we really work um, on trying to save the tree, and we start talking about the cost of saving the tree, where the house has to go, and sometimes saving the tree could be a $15,000 or $20,000 issue. Well, maybe that tree is not that important anymore. So we want to make sure that we kind of have a whole picture and make sure that when you're out there that you really understand the decisions you make and how that might affect the cost of your home, because every lot's different. There's a lot of fall on the property. We go to San Antonio, and sometimes the back of the homes are 9 and 10 feet tall. Well, when that happens, that means you got to make the house flat somewhere. And so it means we're going to have a really tall slab, and that costs a lot of money. So if we're able to work on the land some, adjust maybe the floor plan in some cases, do some things to help reduce that cost so that you get a better value. Those are all things we're looking at out on site. Um, you know, Roads, septics, wells, all those things, lot clearing. We want to know, what are you going to do in your backyard? Are you going to put a pool in? Are you not going to put a pool in? Are you septic systems needed? Where is it going to go? Are we going to need building pads? All those things we're looking at to make sure, again, when we tell you what the price is for those items, that we do them in the best possible manner. So definitely, that's a big deal, and that's done once you really need a floor plan to figure out what the house is going to look like and where it's going to go and how big the footprint of the home is. Next part's architectural control approval. That's a full-time job. We have someone that does that, and submitting for the architectural control for, if it's in the city, whether it's in the county and in one of the associations, things like that, we need to make sure that we get all that approved. And that's, a lot of work now. They make you put all the colors together and they make you submit the plans. And it's not like the old days, 20 years ago, you used to call up and go and build the house. They'd say, send me the plan. They'd go approved. Now it goes through whole approval process. And most of this is subbed out by the associations, and they actually hire a professional company to do it. Permit acquisitions, again, that's a full-time job, getting all the permits. If you're building in the city, you're building in the county, making sure we get all those, or whether it be from the architectural control company. Design services. This is an area where a lot of people make a big mistake. They go out, they buy the property, they get all excited, and they hire an architect or designer. And I tell this story every time I do a seminar, because it's a real story and it's going to fit someone who's probably listening, just like it always fits someone who's in the crowd. And that architectural design, they'll go hire someone and they'll say, I want to build a 2,500 square foot house with a 2-car garage, and this is what I'm thinking. And they tell them, we want to spend $325,000. And so the architect listens to them, goes, okay, we're going to design your home. You know, can't get too crazy on it because your budget's 325. And they go off, they meet with them, they tell them all the stuff they want, tell them 2,500 square feet. And that first plan comes back and they meet with that architect or designer and they go, oh, this is beautiful. Now to put it in perspective, they're paying, let's just keep it simple, $1 a foot. They're paying on framed area. Okay, so framed area means you're not paying for the 2,500 square feet, you're also paying for the garage. Okay, so they're probably paying about, let's just keep it simple, for 3,200 square feet. Even though the house is 2,500, you pay for framed area, porches, garages, and the house because they got to get paid for all their work. So you paid them $3,200. They designed this 2,500 square foot house with a 2-car garage, and they go, comes back and they go, it's really nice, but we slept on it, and we decided we want a 3-car garage. We really like that porch instead of it being 6 foot deep. We really sit out on that porch off the back. We want it 12 foot deep, and we want the kitchen to be a little bit larger and the master to be a little bit bigger. And they make the changes, and they just tell the architect that. And he goes, okay. He goes off, makes the changes, comes back, brings you the plan, making it fast. You go, it's perfect. Now they have that plan, and they go out and they start shopping. And they worked 6 months maybe getting this plan ready. And they go out and they shop for this plan, and they go, here, I'm going to bring it to a builder. And so if I always use the example, they might shop multiple builders, and a lot of people ask, do you build off other people's plans? The answer is yes, we build off other architects and designers' plans. Even though we have our own architecture department and our own plans, we do build off them. And they walk in and they bring us the plans, and we look at them, and they go, I'll start looking at the plan. I'm like, tell us about your budget. And they'll tell us their budget was 325. Well, we're looking at that set of plans that they had done, and now it's got a 3-car garage and all this extra space, and the house grew by 300 or 400 square feet by the time they added everything. Well, guess what? That home's no longer 325. It's 425 or 400. And they're like, oh my God, that's out of our budget. Oh, and if we're the first person they shop, they get mad at you and they leave. But if we're the third or fourth, they go, what do we do? And I always tell the story. I go, you really can't ever build that house because unless you're willing to, you can't shrink it because everything was designed around that size. You're going to need to find something that you like it, but it's going to have to come down in size and maybe lose a garage, things like that. And so what happens with those people is they end up probably never building a home. They go, oh my God, this process is so complicated and hard. I don't want to do this anymore. And so some of you haven't owned or bought a lot yet. You might find someone who's selling a lot because they went through that process and got upset. And I've seen it happen over and over again. I've seen them say sometimes, we're selling it with the plan. Well, that's because they designed a plan and put 3,000 into it or 4,000, or sometimes I've seen 10 or 12,000. And they end up never building that house because it gets out of their budget. So I tell that story because I say, find your builder first and have them sit with your architect or designer when they're designing it. Because if you're doing that with us and all of a sudden you add stuff, you go, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you told me your budget was 325, we're going to turn around to you and go, hey, did you win the lottery last night? Did something happen? Did you get an inheritance? Because you told me you wanted at 325, and now you're talking about 400 or 425. And that's not what you wanted to do. And it kind of keep them in check. Because everyone gets mad at the architect or designer. They go, oh, he ripped me off or she ripped me off. They should have known. The fact is, they don't know. They're not asking you for your checkbook. You're only having to pay them another $300 or $400 or $500 for that extra square footage. They're not saying, hey, this is going to cost that much more money. So just take that into mind that, sometimes simple additions on a piece of paper add up to real big dollars. So find your builder first and have them sit with you with your architect or designer. Design Center, we're a fixed cost builder. So if you come into us and you want us to build your home, we're going to figure out what your home costs, and that's going to be what it costs for you to build it. The only way to do that is to pick out all those selections up front. So if they don't have a design center, we have an on-site design center in both cities where you can pick out all your selections. We have an interior designer that helps you do that. And it's a true interior designer to make sure that the selections you pick go with your house, because I know I can't do it myself. I need someone to help me. But they're going to help you do all that. And then it's all priced out. And that's before we start construction, and before you close on a construction loan, you're going to know exactly what the home costs. So that way it's not a guess. If they're doing allowances, then you really don't know what your home costs. You just hope those allowances cover what you want. We're having you pick everything you want and then figuring out, is that, here's the price of what it is, and if it's too much or too little, meaning you want to do more, then you know what it is up front. Mortgage services, we have a mortgage company that offices in Houston and in San Antonio. They're really, really good at doing one-time closes, and that's something that we do provide at least a good access to. And one thing we do that's a little different than other builders is we pay the interest on the construction loan when it's under construction. So if you go with one of our preferred lenders, we're going to pay the interest while it's under construction. A lot of people go, well, you must be marking it up. I would tell you, please go shop your mortgage companies. Please go shop them, and they're no more than anyone else. We do it as a selfish reason. Is we do, we have 100 homes under construction, and for us to do draws on 100 homes, meaning that's how we get paid, is in draws. We get paid at stages of construction. We have one lady that does all those phone calls, and if she had to call 50 different mortgage companies, it'd be a nightmare. So we have 2 or 3 we work with. I'm not saying there's no other ones we ever work with, but definitely go shop them. Doing a one-time close is what's typically done when you're doing a construction on your home. That's what most of you would want, is a one-time close loan. That one-time close loan is a construction loan and permanent financing all rolled into one. It's definitely more cost effective. And the other advantage of doing a one-time close loan is you're able to lock in your mortgage rate at today's rate. So if you went in today and you applied for a loan and you were going to build a home with us and today's rate was 3.3, then you're getting 3.3. And if interest rates go up, you don't get the up. If interest rates go down, you get the down. So it's kind of cool. It's definitely a good loan. And again, most of you probably would qualify. You do have to have some pretty good credit, but 98% of who we build does a one-time close. Anyway, so one of the questions that came up was, it's right in line with what we're talking about, do all the selections and finish outs have to come from your design center? Or will your interior decor have access to outside finish options? The answer is yes, we can get them from outside finish options. We probably certainly don't have everything that could possibly be bought inside our design center, but I can tell you we have a large selection of them. But we do, as a builder, we do control we don't have anybody provide anything, because things get stolen, things get damaged, things get discontinued. People try to say, hey, I can buy that early, and then the die lots don't match. There's lots of things that happen in new home construction versus remodeling. Remodeling, you buy it and you go put it in right away. In new home construction, you're choosing these things way prior to getting it, because it's all being designed to go in your home. So yes, we're able to do that. Soils engineering. If your builder doesn't do this by a geotechnical engineer, then definitely don't build with them. So it's a soils test, 2 borings, 15 feet deep, or as deep as they can go. In San Antonio, it's 1 boring, 15 feet deep. Excuse me, unless you're on the south side of town, then it's 2 borings, and that's because you have a lot of rock on the north side. But it's 2 borings, 15 feet deep. And what they do is they go down, it looks like they're drilling a water well. They drill down, and they're going to take out, in the case where they're doing 2 of them, 30 cylinders. Those 30 cylinders are 1 foot. They look like little, almost like a coffee can. And they're going to take that, wrap it up into cellophane, put it in a cooler, take it back to their office, heat it up, cool it off, and they're going to try to recreate what happens in nature over time on your property at each level down 15 feet, because they want to make sure that when we build your home, that we're going to build the best slab that we possibly can build. And the only way to do that is by a geotechnical report. We then get this giant report. It's a geotechnical report. It then goes over to the structural engineer. Okay, it goes over to a structural engineer who's going to engineer the slab for your particular house. Very interesting. I had a lot of people come to me and they go, hey, my neighbor built a house. Hey, they know what their soils are. Hey, our builder who's going to build ours, because they built the neighbors, knows exactly what to do. That's not the case. You never, ever, ever want to use your neighbors, your friends, your brothers, I don't care what it is, off a different piece of property. Um, it's really an inexpensive thing to have done, 12 to $1,500 to do a soils test, depending on the city. Okay. That's all it costs to make sure that we're doing everything right. And I would never ever build a home without a soils test by a geotechnical engineer and a slab being engineered by a structural engineer. Those are the first two things. So if they're saying, hey, we've done this before, or they took another plan and they brought it over there and they were just going to do it again, that is not right, and you should not do that. I'm going to cover energy efficiency, materials and workmanship, and inspections in just a moment. Determine that the builder has adequate risk insurance in the event of a loss. Okay, so if you're paying cash, which we have a lot of customers that pay cash, that's a big deal. You want to make sure that the builder is actually insured and they can cover your house if it burns down, gets vandalism, things get stolen. If you're having a mortgage on it, the mortgage company is going to check all that out for you because they want to make sure the builder has adequate risk insurance. If you're doing a cost plus contract, we don't do cost plus, but if you did cost plus, which means it costs something plus 20% or 15%, when you have stuff stolen, you have a deductible, all those things, that's part of your cost plus. Okay, so you're going to have, if you do a cost plus contract, they're going to do what's called a contingency fee. You're going to have to put a contingency where if you say the home's 400,000, your mortgage company is going to put a contingency of 3 to 5% for things that could happen on site. With our case, there is no contingency fee. It's a fixed fee. Upfront means your cost of your home's fixed. The contingency is on Mike Feigen, not the buyer. So just to be aware of that when you're looking at that and trying to compare, and sometimes if you're thinking about doing a cost plus means you pay the plus, and stuff does happen. We have stolen material, we have vandalism, we have windows that get stolen. There's things that happen on site that try to control, but do happen. If you're trying to figure out, do you like them? Go visit their model home parks, go visit their homes under construction. Those are good ways to look at what kind of work they do. Contract specs and options in writing. If you remember one thing I tell you tonight, remember, get it in writing. If it's not in writing, you're not getting it. If it's not in writing, you're not getting it. And that's why we do every single thing we do is in writing. Our contracts, our specifications, our options, everything's written out. We redraw every plan for every customer. Even if you bought one of our standard plans and moved a tub, it gets redrawn. If you add an outlet, it gets redrawn. If it's you say, I don't, a third of the way through construction, you make a structural change or you make a change inside that's not a decorator change, it gets redrawn because we want to make sure that whatever is being done on site, we have a plan for it, and we engineer all of our frames, we engineer all of our foundations, and we want to make sure that all that stuff's all thought through. Because a lot of times I've gone to homes and they're like, oh, I wanted to add a door here. Well, there's things called shear walls. There's things that, I'm going to use the example of we build on the coast. Well, you can't just like take out a window and make the window bigger once it's been engineered to be in a windstorm area. You will never pass your windstorm and you can never get insurance. That means if that were to happen, we have to go back to the engineer and say, they changed the plan. And it could be an inch. They moved a door and made it a foot wider. That foot where they added it might be a problem for windstorm. So those are the kind of things where we talk about you want to make sure are all drawn, make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you're buying. So we redraw every plan. We make sure that when you make all your selections, we write them all down. We take pictures of them. You can look at your selections. And then we do, it says final meeting here. That's a pre-construction meeting before we ever start building your home, before you ever close on your loan. Before we start construction, because one-time close, you close on your loan up front. You then have a pre-construction meeting. But before you close on any of that, we do this pre-construction meeting and make sure we're all on the same page. Make sure The contract's what you should read. Make sure the specifications are what they were. Make sure all your selections are right. We make sure the plans are what reflect every single thing that are chosen. That's a big deal to make sure that when we're out on site, we get that really good understanding so that we don't have, enough stuff happens when you build a home. People ship out the wrong thing. Sometimes someone keys something in wrong and we get something installed that's incorrect. But guess what? When it's correct on the plan and it's correct on the contract, then when that stuff happens, it's a really simple conversation. It's wrong, rip it out, put the right one in. So we want to make sure that we, really thoroughly go over that. And you want to make sure that if you're building a home, that you do that as well, that you really understand, because there's thousands of parts to a house, and you want to make sure you know what you're getting on them. Professional on a sales staff, definitely as you're shopping, if you don't like where you're shopping, you don't like when you go buying a car or those things, then I always say don't buy there. One of the other things is disclosure statement. I always put this up here. You can probably read it on a computer when I'm doing it in my big open area that I normally do my seminar in. You really can't read it. It looks all blurry, but it's a Texas property code. And I put this in here because it's part of a law that came effective 1998. And when you're signing a contract, you won't find that in a lot of cases, meaning the builders, custom builders, are not having you sign that. They don't know about it, or you don't know about it. And part of that law is this disclosure statement. You must sign it. But we're to provide you a list of suppliers and subcontractors to be used during the build process, and that's after you close. You don't get that before you close. And if it changes, that's just part of the law. If it changes, we have to notify you. But that's just, again, it's not anything big, but it's just part of the law. The bigger part is the progress reporting for draws. When we do draws, we have to notify you and let you know that we're doing a draw on your home. And that's how we get paid. We get paid in draws as we progress throughout the home. Foundation, frame, HVAC getting installed, things like that. We're getting paid in increments as we go through. And then the escrow account. This is the one that gets interesting. Funds cannot be commingled in the builder's operating account. So what that means is we have an operating account. That is what we use to build your, we have a construction account, and then I have an operating account. That operating account's my money. I can do whatever I want to with it. I can pay myself. I can pay my construction managers. I can pay our, my employees. I can buy things, whatever I want to do. The operating account is what your funds come into. So let's just say we have $50,000 foundation, and whatever it is, keep it simple, 40,000 of it was the foundation cost, and 10,000 went to pay all the other stuff that goes along with it, construction managers and all the things. So the profit, the 10,000 I can take over into my account, and the 40,000 stays there to pay for the concrete, for the forming up, all the stuff that goes in to build your foundation. So you have these funds. Okay, 50,000 was coming in, 10 I can do whatever I want to with, run my company. The other 40 needs to stay in there. The reason this is important, if the builder goes out of business, the first thing they're going to pull up is say, hey, did they comply to the law? And you're going to go, aha, they didn't do it. And so then they're going to go, we got them. What happens in these situations, if the builder goes bad or doesn't know how to price a home, and all of a sudden their home's, maybe you shopped and someone was 20,000 less. Well, maybe they don't know their cost, and they didn't have enough money to build a home, and so they got into trouble. What happens when that all goes bad and you have a lot of problems is the builder might, yes, he might have some lawyer problems, but you have a lot bigger problem. It's going to cost you a lot more money. You're going to have to hire a lawyer. Your home could most likely have liens on it. You're going to have liens on the home, and it's going to cost you a lot of money to get out of it. So it's never a good situation. So this is just something up front, asking this question. You're going to see a lot of people squirm, and you may or may not figure that out, but they may not want to do business with someone when they go, what are you talking about? What are you talking about this law, and how do you handle that? Get a written copy of the home builder's warranty before signing a contract. Every builder in the state of Texas is responsible for your slab and structure for 10 years. Every builder in the state of Texas is responsible for your slab and structure for 10 years. So you definitely want to make sure that you understand that. Um, we actually do a 20-year warranty. We didn't do that until we were in business for 10 years. And off the stuff I'm going to go across later, I'll go over later that talks about um, the inspections and all the engineering we do is what gave me a lot of confidence in the fact that we could stand behind homes for 20 years. So you definitely want to um, make sure that, again, some people will go, we have a 1-year warranty. Well, that's not the case. They have a 10-year warranty by law. Now, if your builder goes out of business, a lot of people don't realize if your builder goes out of business, you have no warranty. If your builder goes out of business, you have no warranty. So a lot of people go, my builder's been in business for 20 years. You need to ask, have they been in business for 20 years under their name? Like the same company name, the same everything? Or it could have been like Mike Feigen Homes, Mike Feigen Homes LLC, Mike Feigen Homes Inc. You also want to look at, and this is never really in production. It's mostly in custom. A lot of custom builders, we're not that way. My wife and I fund the whole company, but a lot of custom builders have investors. And so they go, when you go sign a contract with them, it's not necessarily under Mike Feigen Homes. It's kind of another company that they signed under so that they can pay their investor, because they don't want to own their whole company with that investor. They just are investing in the profit that they're going to make on maybe one house or 2 or 3 homes. They're helping fund that builder. And what happens is, so they have a different contract that they get, because obviously that investor wants some leverage. If the builder kind of goes somewhere, the investor can have it. And so what you want to be very careful of is, if that, once that's done, what happens every time is they just close that company down. So you think you have a warranty, but if things really go bad, they just go away. Sorry, that's out of business. That particular partnership is out of business. So we don't operate that way. It's always Design Tech Homes. It's been Design Tech Homes forever. So anyway, it's just something to think about when you're doing it. We subscribe to an ACES warranty, which is a third-party warranty dispute resolution. There's several of them out there, and that's what that is. They would get in between us. If I told you it was black and you said it was white, they come out and go, no, Mike, it's white. You need to go fix it. I can tell you we never get where we need them, and that's because we do what's right. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. It's real simple. That's how we do that. So definitely, you know, make sure that you understand how they do warranty. We have 24-hour warranty service. We have our own warranty personnel and their own truck that can help go out and do warranty, along with a couple of other internal people that work for us that help do some of that warranty when it's needed. And then obviously our trade, some of them, like a plumber, electrical, HVAC contractor, we're not electricians. We need them to go out there and do that. Always check the builder's references. These are things you can do. Visit the homes under construction by the builder. Talk to subcontractors, vendors about builder's quality and payment history. If they're living off draws, meaning they're not paying their subcontractors until they get a draw, our people get paid, our contractors get paid every Friday for work they did the previous week. They get paid every Friday for work that they completed, I would say, that they did the previous week. And so you definitely want to make sure, if you go out there and their contractors go, oh, I'm not getting paid. Why aren't they getting paid? Is it because they didn't complete the work, or they're waiting for a draw? Our guys get paid if they did the work, no matter what. We don't need draws to pay our subcontractors. We have enough dollars to be able to do that. Check out the owners of the company. Those are all things you can do. And is the builder a member of the Better Business Bureau? Those are some other things you can do. Energy Star. Every builder in the United States needs to build to the National Energy Code. There is a code, and every builder is responsible to build to that code. We have adopted the Energy Star program. Energy Star program is, the easiest way to think about it, is about 30% better than code. So we're not trying to, everything we do, there's code. We try to build, obviously, better than code, and because code's the minimum. So we don't want to just do the minimum. And as you go shop around, for those of you who have shopped, I guarantee you've walked into a builder and they go, we're energy efficient. Let me tell you everything we do. Unless you have it verified by a third party, you have no idea. So part of this process to become an Energy Star builder, which if you go log in, I just did it today to double check. Okay, we're one of of custom builders, one of 3 custom builders in the San Antonio area that is an Energy Star builder. We are the largest Energy Star builder in Texas that's a custom builder, the largest custom builder in Texas that's Energy Star. And there used to be about 100. Well, why aren't they all doing it now? Because it's really hard. It's onerous. And so they don't want to do it. We have HVAC contractors, which put in the air conditioning and heating, that will not do our work when we tell them, or when we call them. We have the ones that will now. When we call them up and say we're an Energy Star builder, they go, we don't want to do our work because they can't comply to the strict code that you need to do to make sure that you're an Energy Star builder. So part of that, part for the HVAC guys, you have to have less than 3% duct leakage. Your home has to have less than 3% duct leakage in your ductwork. You're probably thinking, well, why does it leak at all? For most of you, if you have an older home, your houses leak 30%. The average home has 30% duct leakage within the home. Okay, so they seal up everything and they actually do testing to make sure that the ductwork tests that less than 3%. Really, really stringent. They also come out and they inspect how it's insulated. So there's an insulation inspection. It's not just, hey, we're putting the insulation in. They come out and inspect the insulation. They actually, every hole that gets drilled, where you put all your pipes through, and I'm talking about interior holes that are in the middle of the wall. Every hole that gets drilled, every penetration, all of them get foamed so that nothing can go through those penetrations. So it gets inspected for that prior to ever putting in the wall insulation so they can actually see it. At the sill plate, which is at the top and the bottom, they actually seal all that up with foam. Around every window, around every door gets sealed up with foam. And so it's a very onerous process to make sure that this home is built very tight. You have to have certain kind of windows. Well, a lot of people go, we got great windows. We use double pane windows, and they're low E squared. I always use the example of a sunglass. If you buy Ray-Bans, okay, that are polarized, or you could buy a pair, I'm not making fun of it, but at Walmart that are polarized. Are they the same? Sometimes maybe the polarization is close to the same, but the clarity and the way they cut out the light is not the same. You're paying for a better glass. So the same thing happens when you buy glass for windows. We buy the very best glass. It's a cardinal glass. It's a double pane low E3 window, okay, not low E squared. And so when you're looking at people and they say, oh, we have the same kind of windows, you got to look at the U value. The lower the U value, the better the window. So there's lots of things where people think they're getting the same thing, but they're not. Just like when they say, well, we're building energy efficient home. Well, they're not building an energy efficient home because they don't know. They say they are. Well, we use some of the same products maybe that Design Tech does. Well, not being inspected means it's not being installed correctly. So we make sure of all that. So these plans get sent off to what's called a HERS rater. The HERS rater goes through the whole plan. They actually put it in 3D. We draw everything in 3D already, and they actually then do a HERS rating, which is called stands for Home Energy Rating System. And so by doing that, we now get basically a map of the home, and it says you need this kind of HVAC put in, sizing it. So they do what's called a manual J. A lot of people think, well, I want a big AC. The bigger the AC, the more money you're going to use. So you want an efficient AC, and you want it sized correctly for the home. If you put in one that's too big, it's going to turn on and turn off, and it's never going to pull the humidity out of your house. So the way you pull humidity out of the house, it has to run for more than 2 or 3 minutes. So, and turning it on is the most costly part of an HVAC system, meaning when it turns on, it's not very efficient. So when you hear about SEER rating, seasonal energy efficiency rating, well, it only gets to that, 16 SEER, which is what we put in as a standard, which is a very high SEER rating. A lot of people don't do that. They'll put in a 14. We need to put in at least a 16 to be Energy Star. There is 20, but I'll tell you the difference in the cost to go from 16 to 20. The payback on that is many years. I'm not saying don't ever consider doing that, but It's not something you're going to get back in 2 or 3 years. But it's like your car when you're driving down the highway. You're driving in your car, you turn your HVAC, you turn your air conditioner on, and it might take about 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes before it starts really cooling off. That's how your house works. Until it's on for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, it's really not even running at that SEER rating of 16. It's running at a SEER rating of 2 and 3 and 4 as it's ramping up. So to get that full SEER rating, you're wanting to have it your run for a little while. By building a home with Energy Star, it's going to be quieter, it's going to be healthier. We're also Indoor Air Plus certified, so everyone's worried about now about having your home clean and making sure your home is safe. We are one of the only, if not the only, custom builder that is Indoor Air Plus certified. Okay, that's all part of this Energy Star certification, and it's all kind of the filters and everything we put in. So this is something we take a lot of pride in. Everybody else jumped out of the program because it got hard, and I said it's the right program. We've been in it for almost 20 years now, and believe in it. Every home that I own personally is an Energy Star certified home, and every home we build. So we're 100% Energy Star certified. We don't pick and choose. Some people will go to a building and they'll go, "Can you do it?" And then they'll go try to figure out how to do it. Every single thing we build is Energy Star certified. So, when you ask us, are we energy efficient? The answer is we can prove it to you. In the end, you get a certificate from the EPA and the Department of Energy saying your home's Energy Star certified, just like your TV or your appliances. Guardian Certified Inspection Program. Okay, most people don't realize if you're in the city of Houston, the city of San Antonio, you're going to get inspections. If you're out in the county, there are no inspections. Many builders go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we inspect your home." Who inspects your home? We have a third party inspector go inspect your home, along with our construction manager. But guess what? Our construction manager doesn't fail himself. The third party inspectors fail us because if you're inspecting a home, you're going to fail. Okay, so they go out and they're going to go inspect these homes and make sure that all the stuff that the engineer said needed to be done on the foundation was done. So at the foundation stage, actually the engineer's representative comes out and inspects the entire foundation and makes sure that what the engineer designed, who has an engineer's stamp, who's insured, we did what the engineer said. Because if something happens later, we're going to go back to the engineer and go, "Hey, you engineered this." So he wants to make sure it's correct. The next thing we do is a plumbing ground inspection, which means we fill all the sewer pipes up with water. It's a really simple test. It goes into what's called a column. That column sits up about 6 feet out of the slab, and they fill it up with water and they put a line on it. And after 24 hours, if it doesn't drop below the line, you passed that part of the test. The number two reason for slab failure, other than not having proper drainage around your home, is getting a cracked pipe under your home. And most of the time, that cracked pipe happens before you ever start the home. And it's because people aren't doing those tests. It's why the city of Houston, San Antonio, or other cities require that test. We do it on every home. Then there's a frame inspection. We engineer our frames. In the city, you keep hearing me say this, in the city, we have to engineer the frame or they will not approve it, meaning they won't even let it get out to where they'll give us a permit. In the county, okay, we don't have to do it. We do it as if we're building in the city. And so when they go out to inspect, they can see if the frame was done correctly because now they can see where all the members are. There are some large builders, okay, that have lots of model home parks that will not build in the city of Houston, the city of San Antonio, or any city because they don't do the engineering. The other part is they also don't have a licensed plumber, a licensed electrician, and a licensed HVAC contractor. When you're out in the county, nobody's checking. When you're in the city, you have to have that or you cannot get a permit. So those are all things that you may not be thinking about, but as you go look for a builder, are they licensed plumbers? Are they licensed electricians? Are they licensed, licensed HVAC contractors? Everybody we use is, and everybody we use is also insured. The next thing we want to do is they're going to do that plumbing inspection, electrical, HVAC, and go out and inspect those homes. Then there's a blocking insulation. That's part of Energy Star. They're going to go out and do what's called a duct blaster test. They're going to test the duct work and make sure that it leaks less than 3%. They're going to test and look at all the insulation and make sure that insulation was installed properly. And only then can we put the sheetrock on. Because once you put the sheetrock on, you've covered everything up. So, those are things to um, be aware of. Is once it's covered up, you can't see what's behind it. So we make sure all that stuff's inspected prior to covering everything up. Then there's a cosmetic inspection. That cosmetic inspection is done by us. It's done by a third party. It's also done by yourself. But we want to walk through that house and try to find every single thing we can prior to you ever taking occupancy of this home. We're going to get in the tub. We're going to sit on the toilet. We're going to look at all those things and see how they look before you move in, and see if we can find those problems that maybe you wouldn't see unless you were sitting in those positions. Or, hey, I'm going to look behind, inside of a closet and grab around the door and make sure they painted the top of the trim, those things that may or may not show up until you stand on a ladder and look at it. So we're going to be doing those things so when you move in your home, we're not having to go back and fix those. Then there's a final code inspection. That's inspections much like the one if you're going to sell your home or you were buying a home. There's going to be an inspector that comes out. They're going to go look at all these things as well as your appliances and make sure everything's right. And then after that, we do the final energy code inspection, and that's a blower door test. That's where they stick an apparatus in one of the doors of the home. They close the entire house up really tight, and looks like they're doing barometric pressure readings and things, and they're seeing if there's any air infiltration. I only had one house last year. It kept failing. It kept failing. It kept failing. We're like, it passed all the tests. It kept failing. They couldn't figure out where it was. We had to go in with infrared, and we found out that underneath the curved stair, which was sheetrocked, the other side of the curved stair obviously was sheetrocked on the outside wall because when we did it, someone had ripped out the insulation because something was in the way, and it never showed up until the end. It got missed. It got ripped out, and the sheetrocker must have come in between, and they did that, and we figured it out. So my point is, even if something gets missed, it will not get passed and will not get past the certification and will not be an Energy Star certified home unless we pass all that. So we had to go in, figure out what it was, cut open the wall there, cut open the other wall, put the insulation in, get it all sealed back up and put it back, and then it became an Energy Star home. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about where we check everything. So one of the questions was, how much time do all these inspections add to the construction of a home? I would tell you that that's a good question because a lot of people go, hey, this guy builds faster. Well, you don't have to stop at all. We could fly. I guarantee my construction managers would love to never have to stop. And I would love it because I'm paying the interest while the home's under construction. So I would tell you that doing inspections probably adds a good 2 to 3 weeks to a home because you do fail. You do have to go back. You have to get the trades to come back and do the work. So, and you're going, why don't they do it right the first time? Well, that's the reason we have inspections, because no one does stuff right the first time. I wish they did. Every once in a while that does happen, but that's why we do the inspections, to make sure that we get everything covered and we don't have any problems. And I always say the inspectors are there not just for you, they're there for me, because I can't be in every home, and I want to make sure that when I'm standing behind it that I know it's been inspected and it's being done the right way. Building green, I just put this up here, is I really believe in sensible green building, meaning don't get carried away by people who call themselves green builders. Part of the most biggest thing you can be to be a green builder is energy efficiency. And I just went through where the most energy efficient builder you probably could find without doing a bunch of crazy stuff. And that crazy stuff might be, I want to put in solar. And we do solar, but I will tell you that it will never pay, meaning it's a 20-year payback no matter how you do the math. And in 20 years, the panels go bad, you're going to have to put them back in. Our energy costs are so low, and based on the way they're able to extract stuff from the ground today and how easy it is to get out of the ground, I don't see that changing in any time in the near future. most people have always put in solar or done a lot of things that are even more energy efficient, or engineers, and it's usually because they want to tell their buddies they did something cool, and they have money. It costs a lot of money to do that, and the payback is not there. And so I just want to bring that up as far as we do, our um, studs we use that are standard are finger jointed studs. Those cost more money. They're straighter. They're an engineered stud. A lot of people walk out and they go, I think you use cheaper studs. I'm like, call the lumber company. And every time they call the lumber company goes, no, they're using a more expensive stud. Well, those are a green product. So that's something we do. We use a lot of engineered lumber. That's green. Our paints are low VOC paints, all those things we're doing to make sure we have good indoor air quality, things like that. But just be careful when people say they're charging you more to be green. We've been green from the day we started, and we don't charge for it. We want to make sure that you're getting your value out of it. We do a 20-year warranty. I talked about that some. I want to make sure that um, we stand behind our home. That's unique to us. Every builder's standard with 10-year warranty. We do a 20-year warranty. How much can I afford? I always put this up here because, what rates make a difference. And obviously rates are lower than 4 today. So you can see the buying power that this person has at 4% when rates go up to 6. So let's say they go from 3.3 to 5. Same kind of thing would happen. You're going to get a lot more home as the rates are lower. So that's what's good about a lot of people. I'm going to wait. Right now, with the interest rates the way they are, as long as you're able to be gainfully employed, this could not be a better time to build your home. Um, you know, we're still really busy. I guess there's a lot of people that have money and are doing stuff, so we're happy about that. All the other builders are busy. I go on reports. I subscribe to something called Metro Study, which is a national home building a company that actually does a lot of work for the national home builders as well. And that's really kind of the story across the United States, because there wasn't enough housing to begin with, meaning we're actually in a housing shortage. And so there wasn't enough replacement housing. So they're actually selling all their speculative homes very quickly right now, because the existing homes that y'all live in right now, you're not letting them go walk in your homes because you were afraid of COVID. So they needed to move into something. And so they were buying those homes that were from builders that were finished. We're a custom builder. We rarely do speculative homes. All our homes we do are custom on other people's lots. So before you get started, one of the things a lot of people won't realize is getting a construction loan is much different than going online and going and just getting approved for an existing home loan. You could do an existing home loan in about 2 minutes online. There is no one doing one-time closed loans online where you just get your answer right away. It's different. It's a construction loan. Construction loans are riskier. And if you think of it as a bank's perspective, so you understand why I say that, is the bank's hoping you pick the right builder. The bank's hoping you don't lose a job while you're building your home. The bank's hoping that maybe you don't die. The builder doesn't die. There's a whole lot of risk involved, with building this home. The bank's hoping it doesn't blow away. They don't have issues with insurance. All those things the bank's hoping. In an existing home, they know that they're going to approve you in 30 days, you're going to close on it, and you move into that home. On an existing home, you move into that home and you lose your job, they can go repossess a home that is completely done. Obviously, they won't do it right away. If your house, if you die, they again can go get a home that's completely done. With a home that's being built, they have a partially built home which does not have the full value. So there's a lot of risk in it if you look at it as from a bank's perspective. So I always say go get pre-qualified, because it is different for a home that's a to be built home than an existing home. So just understand that. They're going to ask for your credit scores, liquid assets, appraisals, all those take into account, monthly income, all those things, just so you're aware of what they're going to ask when they do that. Common questions. I usually, at the end of mine, I never had these. I would say, any questions? Do you have any questions? And so I wanted to bring up some of the things that people ask at the end of many of my seminars, and they ask hundreds more questions, but I put up a few. Can we modify our plans? The answer is yes. We're totally custom, though I would say they're ideas. I think they're really good ideas, and many of our plans fit everybody's needs, but most people want to modify them somehow to fit their exact need, and we can do that. Will we build with an outside architect's plan or designer plans? The answer is yes. We can do that. Um, how long um, is the process? It's typically, if you walked in today and said, we are ready to build a home, Mike, and we know which plan we want, it's about and you wrote a contract, it's about a 90-day process. We're doing soils testing, engineering. We're doing a whole lot of stuff in that time. You're picking your selections. We're designing the home maybe you want or moving things around. We're doing that during that 90-day process, okay? Getting your loan approved. Then you close and surveys, um, all those kind of things that need to get done prior to the start of your home. Then we then close on your loan, and you're anywhere. We're going to always quote 9, depending on the size of your home, where it's being built, 9 to 12 months. Typically beat that time frame, but we're going to quote 9 to 12 months. So someone says, how long is it? If you said today, Mike, I want to do it, you're looking at a year. That's how long it takes if you're really doing the whole process well. That doesn't mean we haven't done the whole process quicker and close people faster and they have cash. They don't have to do loans. I'm just telling you what's typical. What kind of insulation is best? People ask me about, hey, I want spray foam everywhere. And I always tell the story of you want really good insulation and you want something that's going to make your house tight, and you also want it affordable, and you also want your home safe. We use what's called a blown-in bib system. Bib, B-I-B, blown-in bib, which means we blow insulation into the wall. So we actually put fabric up on the whole outside of on the inside of your home, but on the outside walls. And they actually pump the insulation into the wall. A lot of people ask, well, why don't you use foam? I told you we foam every hole, every cranny, around every window, every door with low expansive foam. The reason I don't do foam as a standard is twofold. One is it costs more and it doesn't provide you any more insulation than what we're doing. Okay. The other thing is it is a chemical process, and you're putting chemicals into your home in a big way, not like just the little ones where it goes around the holes, in a big way. And that process, the ones where they're doing it around the holes, they come in with a pre-mixed that's been completely mixed already in these bottles versus the one that comes on a truck. When they're doing it on the truck, there's a guy on the truck. Now, hopefully none of you do this for a living, but generally the guys who are the ones spraying foam, it's very highly caustic. You can't go in the home when they're doing it. They're wearing a spacesuit, and it's supposed to be, because it's a chemical process, you have to measure the outside temperature, indoor air temperature, the temperature of the product on the truck, and it needs to be mixed in a precise manner. And that's how you know if it's being installed correctly when they blow it in the wall. Well, I can tell you that doesn't happen about 75% of the time. So what can happen is you have what's called sick house syndrome. You get a foam that off gases. I've seen this happen. And if you just go into the web and type in off-gassing foam or sick house from foam, you're going to watch some videos and go, oh my God, I never would want that in my house. Now, I'm not telling you we don't do it. People ask us, and we can do it. We're going to pick the right contractor, and there's just not some guy in a pickup truck that does it. And there's a lot of those. This is a business that you can just wake up in the morning and go, I'm a foam installer, and become one. So we want to be careful. So we're very careful with this product, and there are good purposes for it. There's places that we need to use it, but it's not our standard. So that's why we don't foam everything. And if you go ask a fireman, go ask any fireman, would you put foam in your home in the attic, foam the roof and all that? And every fireman's going to tell you not just no, excuse my French, but hell no. It is dangerous because it also is flammable, and the firemen won't even go inside your home when it starts catching on fire because of it. Even though they tell you it's not flammable, once it catches and it gets hot inside your home, it then ignites and it becomes a very dangerous fire, and that foam causes some of that. So again, very careful on how we use products and why we use them. Okay, and I answered how long the process was and then what kind of insulation. Then do you need land first? The answer is no. You do not need land first. Obviously, having land is a plus, because with land, then you can kind of figure out what kind of home can go on it. But if you're looking for land, we do have some services where we can help you find the land. And if you're looking at a couple different pieces of property, we can go, hey, this one costs less than, meaning has lower cost to construct on it than other ones. So those are some of the common things that people ask. I really do appreciate everyone spending their Thursday evening with me. And if you have any other questions, concerns, please, right now you could type them in and I can answer them live. Um, or please email us, notify us. We can do that. We'd be happy to help you along in your process of building a custom home. And again, we have architects on staff, interior designers on staff, and construction managers, all those people to help us do what we need to do so that we can build the home that you need and in a manner that you would like. So appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing it with me. And we hope if you do go out to build a home, you definitely give us a shot and compare us to other people. Here we go. I'd like to initiate the process tomorrow. Can you please call? Yes, we'd love to. And do you recommend someone to remove the current house from the property? Depending on where you are, Cherry Demolition is who we use in Houston to remove homes. Cherry Demolition is really, really good quality company and is insured, and especially if you have a house that's right near some other house and you're in Houston, we highly recommend Cherry Demolition. I don't know the name of the ones in San Antonio, but if we call over there, our sales manager and our area managers can be able to point us in the right direction so that we can get that for you. So thank you very much again for spending the day with this evening with me, and I'll be back. I'll be posting this, so if you have any questions, this will get posted on YouTube, and I'll be sending an email out to you so that you're able to see this entire thing if you have any questions about it. So thank you all very much. Someone asked the question is what's the life expectancy of the metal roof? They're 20 years comes standard with it. They will last a lot longer than that, but it's a 20-year warranty is all that comes with a metal roof. So actually an asphalt roof has a longer warranty, but as you know, a metal roof, that's a standing seam metal roof. I would never do a screw down metal roof, and that's what a lot of people do. A screw down metal roof um, will cause issues over time. I mean, each one of those grommets only lasts about 5 to 7 years, and you have to take the screw out and put a new, um, like a grommet in to help fix it. So definitely love metal roofs. They're also one of the most costly roofs, so just be aware of that. Do we have base price on existing floor plans? If you go online to our website, you'll see the base price, kind of a range that they are on our website. And then obviously it depends on, um, you know, where you're at. Some of that could depend on where you're located, but that gives you a good range. And again, it gives you that range of our price plans of the homes if you go online. Have we made any changes due to COVID-19? Good question. We've made a lot of changes at our office in the fact that it's all by appointment only today. We're actually designing some plans, and I think that's why I asked on that survey was, do you want a Zoom room? Because we're designing some plans with some Zoom rooms, because I've been in a Zoom room quite a bit. Um, but so we're looking at some of the plans and people how they're going to live at the house more, and been in consulting with some outside consultants on that as well, as we're trying to make sure that we're up to date. But our company, you know, if you're meeting them and you come to the office, you'll be wearing a mask. Our people wear masks. They wash hands. You know, we've sent out notices to our trade. So yes, we've done a lot of stuff to help comply with all the stuff we need to and protect our employees. Customers supply certain materials such as appliances. The quick and easy answer to that is no. A lot of people ask why, because those are all criticals that go with your cabinetry, and we don't make money on appliances. So if you're trying to save money on that, that's not something that's going to, excuse me, affect us. We want to make sure that we get it right and that all the built-ins and all the cutouts and everything are correct. And so, no, we want to take control of that. All of a sudden, if they get scratched, stolen, whatever, it's my problem, not yours. All right, guys. Well, thank you very, very much. Thanks for all the questions. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad everyone, a lot of people hung on for quite some time. And again, I'll be posting this. So thank you and have a great evening.